Hi everyone, I'm Jace.
And I'm Yin.
Welcome back to a new season of Freelance Creative Exchange, where every episode we talk about freelancing and the gig economy.
So a huge thank you to everyone for season 1, who have watched us, who have commented and given us feedback, and who have shared our podcast and our YouTube channel with your friends.
For our season 2, we have lined up a series of exciting interviews as well as a change of venue for you. So to kick off, look at where we are here today. We're actually at this new place called Mox, which is a co-sharing space and a community of creatives to gather, collaborate, share, and create. And today we are actually at their flagship store at Katong. If you are here around the area, do drop by and check out the new space for yourself.
Right now, we are here with 3 different makers. Okay, one is, let's say hi everyone to Hui Lian,
Hi everyone.
Jason, and Chen Chen. So Hui Lian and Chen Chen, they are both from Craft Atelier. So you guys specialize more in the paper and fabric crafts, and they hold workshops for anyone who's interested in getting their hands a little bit dirty. And Jason, you run more tinkermind, which is a 3D printing studio, right? Do you also hold workshops there?
Yes.
At tinkermind?
We hold maker education and also 3D printing.
Ah, I see. So I understand, Chen Chen, that you're also involved in tinkermind, right? You're also half the tinkerer over there. So can you guys maybe just let's run down the line and give a bit of introduction as to what you guys actually do as crafters, as tinkerers, and also what your respective companies do.
Hui Lian should start since I'm the.
Everything also has.
So Craft actually just started. We just wanted to create a space, a studio space where people could craft together. So as to what type of craft we teach, it basically is based on the crafts that we're interested in. So we do paper crafts. We started off with things like rubber stamping. I did tinker with things like paper quilling, parchment craft. Then we developed also into fiber crafts. And then because Chen Chen took up weaving, and then she was like tempting me to go and learn weaving as well. So we ended up with looms. Many looms.
Wow.
To the point where it's impossible to keep them at home. We needed a space. So that's when we decided maybe we would start with a studio space where people could come and learn weaving and other fiber crafts.
Nice.
So that's how we got started.
So just to understand, so what were your background before you actually start this studio space together?
So I'm a trained teacher. I taught in 3 different secondary schools for years. And Chen Chen and I were colleagues.
Oh wow! So you're both teachers actually.
Both ex-teachers.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
And our subjects have nothing to do with the aesthetics.
But that's the whole point, isn't it? It has nothing to do with whatever.
So this started off more as a passion project for both of you,
It's
is that right?
more of us sharing the fact that we love to craft. We would get our friends to craft together with us. I mean, anyone who's in my vicinity within the staff room knows how to crochet and knit because they sit next to me. And
Oh, nice.
That's kind of how it got started.
So we used to like enable people to craft. Then after a while, our friends are like, you shouldn't be doing this like for free because we spend a lot of money on our materials and our craft stash. And they're like, why don't you try and monetize it? So that's how we started almost 11 years ago. So we used to run workshops more like freelance. If a friend wanted, they organize their own groups. Then they'll pay us and then we'll run the workshop.
Oh, that's nice. That's like the best stamp of approval, and that's when you actually, I think a lot of people are like, that's actually the point where you should seriously consider starting up on your own.
So how about Jason then? What's your story like? Were you also a teacher before that?
No, I'm not a teacher. I'm actually a maker. I was from industrial design, so I studied industrial design, and I like to make things physical things, be it electronics, robots. So I got into 3D printing because I doing all those product design projects.
Okay.
So it's a good way for prototyping. Then we can iterate, do a lot of changes from the 3D printing because it's very fast. Then after that, I get a chance to meet Chen Chen and the rest of a couple of friends. Then we get together and decided to start tinkermind.
I see. So tinkermind as a company, you guys not. Do you do commission projects as well?
Yeah, we does.
What kind of commission projects you have?
Mainly for commercial designs. So that's our side project. Our main focus is more of workshops, but sometimes for side projects like design, shoe designs, or in fact like prototyping, like mock-ups, like toys mock-ups and all that, we do.
Oh, okay.
So you mentioned, Jason, you mentioned about toy design. Is that I understand that you're also a character designer
yes.
before you went into this, right? So were you doing character designing as a freelance back then, or?
Yes, just before this, I was doing character design for games and for animations. Then I wanted to move into, because we create characters, but it remains 2D. So I want to do it like a 3D print out as a toy, then to sell. So I dabble around with that, and then it's create more attention on that.
Do you still do
Something
that?
unique.
Do you still do that? Like
It's more for fun. Yeah.
More for fun.
But recently, Jason did work on a mascot design, like for some people to convert what they had in mind in the 2D into 3D, so that they could consider like whether they want to go into like mass production.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So how about yourself then, Chen Chen? Like, how do you get involved in, I mean, Craft Atelier you did share with us, right? But how about tinkermind?
Okay, so when I was a teacher in school, I did oversee a lot of talent development programs. So part of things that we do is creative problem solving and making. So we would select programs where students would get a chance to make. So that's part of developing their creativity. So that's how I my first foray into 3D printing. So I moved to the US for about 2 years when my husband did his master's studies. So that's where I encountered weaving. Then when I came back, I was actually approached by my father-in-law. Actually, he was like, 3D printing seems to be the future technology. His counterparts in like China and Korea talk about how it's taught in schools. So he asked me, oh, did your school teach it? And I was like, we didn't. We had some exploratory project, but we don't teach it. And my children don't actually learn it in school. So I think his point is, then we're not raising a generation of makers. We're just going to raise a generation of kids who are very good at studying, but maybe not doing more than that. So he said, could you potentially round up a group of people who will want to help push maker education in Singapore? And he would come in to support us. Yeah, so when I went around to like my friends who are creatives and asked around, that's how I got to know Jason, because Jason's wife actually teaches my children art.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was like, talking to her, saying that we want to have this venture, that she know people involved, and she's like, oh, you know what, Jason does this. So that's how we met Jason, and it was very and quite coincidental that we met the other founders in the company at various 3D printing related events. And then we all came together and said, yes, 3D printing as a technology is great. We enjoy dabbling with it. But if we wanted to introduce it as a technology, we had to make it fun to learn. Like we had to find a way to attract young people to want to do it. So that's how tinkermind kind of came about.
So from the time that you started to explore this idea to the time that you really set up tinkermind, so how long does it take and what's the process like?
It took us about, so from when I was first approached to do this, this was about in June last year. Then we started to do a couple of road shows, like we tried out at Carousel Land to just see what's the public response to it, because it's a very new technology. Would parents pay for their children to come to these workshops versus going to tuition? There's always a trade-off. Yeah. So at Carousel Land, we were very encouraged. There was a lot of interest. Parents they've heard about 3D printing as a technology, but they never thought children could learn it. Yeah, so there was a lot of interest in it. Then that's when we started to get the ball rolling, form up the team, talk about setting up a company. So we were formally registered as a company in October, like late September, October. So the run was very short. It was like 3 months. But we figured if you want to do it, we should do it quick.
Yeah, you have to be a fast mover.
Be fast, get it going, and don't drag our feet over it. Yeah.
So which idea comes first? Is the Craft Atelier idea come first or the tinkermind?
Yeah, Craft Atelier was 11.
It was 11 years.
Yeah,
Craft Atelier, we we started 11 years ago, but we didn't actually register a company then. We just, because we were freelance and we were all still teachers.
Just
so
sort of still a hobby kind of thing.
we couldn't, because if you wanted to register a company when you were a teacher, you actually had to get approval from ministry. You had to declare. So we're like, you know what? We weren't going to make it a full-time thing anyway, so we just do it on the side. Then in the 2 years that I was in the US, so when I learned weaving, I told Hui Lian, you know, it's been 10 years since we've talked about having a studio eventually with Craft Atelier. Like, if we don't do it, another 10 years is going to pass, and we would still be at where we always are as freelancers, and you don't get many gigs for us because we had a fixed work schedule as teachers, so we had to turn down any opportunity that clashed with our teaching schedule. So that's when I said, you know what, 10 years has been a very long time. Should we just like throw all caution to the wind and just register a company? And she was like, okay. So I like pretty much dragged her into it. I was like, okay, we're going to register in July, then we're going to find a space, and that's it, we're going to get started.
So they all like tender together. You guys were in the same school, right?
We were previously.
Yeah, by the time she moved to the US, I had moved on to another school.
Because you came from a very rather stable job, right? And then you came from again something that was super structured, to something where, and you've been doing it for years before that. It was a hobby for you guys. I think that's what a lot of the freelancers that we have, and a lot of people with this creative streak are asking as well. I'm in a very stable job. I am, I can support my family here. I'm content here to a certain extent. But at what stage do you, I guess you had that opportunity to go overseas and come back, and then it was a turning point for you. But you were sort of still in a very stable position.
Yes.
So
I
what
had
made
to
you
be coerced into it. So after we've been talking about it for a while, but the major decision actually came, I think, mostly after I took up weaving as well. So before weaving, most of my hobbies could be done at home. I have the space for it, I have the supplies, I have got the means to do with it. But once I started weaving, it becomes difficult, because while you could weave on small looms, there are many things that you would rather do on a big loom.
It's true.
So if I were to install a big loom, my dream loom in my house, I would have to move a lot of stuff out of my house. So that's one consideration. And then the idea of not having a stable income, not having a regular salary, it's something I had to grapple with for a while. Because as I took on more responsibilities, it becomes more of a, what if this doesn't work? That question is always there.
Of course. So what is that one thing that you say, okay lah,
Yeah, because that's a
just
huge
do it.
question.
Yeah, because
That's
that
a
is
huge
real-
question. What if it doesn't
I
work?
know why she looked
right?
at me. You should ultimatum.
So there was an ultimatum.
Well, I guess it helped that I have been quite prudent in saving up. So it helped that I was able to think carefully and say, okay, I have some money saved up. I could probably support myself without income for maybe 2 years. If it doesn't work, at least I've tried for that 2 years. I wouldn't have lost much other than some money. I would still be able to feed myself. So that's fine. I wouldn't have to go to my parents for money. That's a major consideration. So that helped.
Right. So how about yourself, Jason? Is it very different from working alone as a freelance character designer, slash industrial designer to now setting out a company, working together with Chen Chen?
And you have to invest in equipment and the space,
Is it a very different transition for you?
It is. So I wasn't having a stable income all along. Then thinking about the collaboration here, we have a seed investor to help sustain that certain stability. Although that's being said, we also have to work towards a certain goal to help have the balance to meet the balance of the income. So it's how we push towards that direction.
Tinkermind and Craft Atelier was a bit different. Like Jason said, Tinkermind was very fortunate to have a seed investor who would come in and say, I will help you with the startup costs, like the equipment costs and all of that. I'll come in and help you. So the investor bore most of the financial risk. So for, I think, the founders of Tinkermind, it's more of the lost, the income that we now draw may be lower than if we had taken a full-time job, but there wasn't the initial startup capital that we needed. For Craft Atelier, we actually had to pull in our own money. I think the turning point, like Hui Lian said, was really weaving, because when we were doing freelance, like teaching knitting, rubber stamping, the market is competitive. We weren't the only people who were doing it. But for weaving, it's very new in Singapore, and if we were the first players to open a weaving studio, we basically have first movers advantage. And we were very realistic. I mean, I told her she would have to go full-time, because the initial plan was for me to do full-time, because I've already left my job to move to the US for 2 years, and for her to do part-time. But within the first 2 months, we were losing business opportunities again. Like, there were people who we couldn't do lessons for because we just couldn't have the time for it. So that's why I told her, I think the part-time arrangement is not going to work if we really want to maximize our first movers advantage. And we're very realistic. We told ourselves, this is how much we'll put in, and in 2 years' time, if it doesn't work out, we accept reality and we get back to our day job. Yeah, so there was a lot of that practical consideration that you don't normally hear, like people who start business. They won't tell you that part of it because it's the boring part of it. They'll tell you the exciting things. So I think that's important for anyone who wants to start something new to bear in mind. There's actually a very boring aspect of it, like accounts, money, that nobody talks about. We only talk about it when we have a lot of money. So at this point, nobody talks about it because we're not at that stage yet.
I think a lot of things, like everybody's a bit afraid of jinxing it.
Yeah.
Like the moment you start saying it, like, oh man, what's gonna happen? There's a growing maker trend, or at least a craft trend in Singapore. So yeah, what makes weaving special in a sense?
I think we were fortunate that modern weaving has already picked up in countries like the US, Europe. Wall hangings are now very big on Instagram, and it's all made through weaving. So when you see weaving, the concept is not new to people, but the weaving that we do is more for wearables, so it's more fabric. So that is different, and the tools and the equipment that you use is slightly different. The concept is the fundamental concepts are the same, but it's executed differently. So for us, when we first started, a lot of people assumed what we did was very close to the wall hanging. So they felt like, oh, there are other people who teach it anyway. So it took us a while. We had to do a lot of conversations with people, post a lot of things on our social media, reach out first to maybe our network of friends to try, and then slowly the word started to spread. We were very fortunate that one of my really, really good friend she buys hand-woven products, baby wraps. Hand-woven baby wraps are the biggest thing now among mummies in Singapore. So she came by and she said, have you considered going into this market? Yeah, and we were like, not really. We're not sure if we know enough to go in. And she was like, tell you what, you do a pilot with me. I want to weave my own wrap, and you work with me as your guinea pig. And you can learn from that experience, and if you think this is a market you want to go into, I will help you by sharing my product with people, and then you will get that interest that come in. So I think that's a good part of how we started to kick off the momentum. Then after a while we had crocheters, knitters who were like, oh, you also want to do weaving? Then they came and they helped to spread the word. And I mean, I think where we are now, a lot of it is thankful for all these people.
Yeah, because we had a student who has been exploring weaving as a possibility.
Yeah, because 3D printing as well, like you mentioned as well, right? It's been mentioned a lot, talked a lot about in various other neighboring countries and so. But in Singapore, it's also a very huge and growing market. And I think it's quite competitive as well. I'm not sure about workshops, but I know in terms of 3D printing studios or people who offer services or prototypes, I see a few popping up. So what kind of competition is there in the market, and how do you make yourself stand out in such in a very fast-paced growing
Right.
industry?
So for tinkermind, we want to advocate more of the introductory side. So because 3D printing is very new, and a lot of the technologies are not like, people will feel that there's a restriction against this new technology. There's this barrier that they need to cross. So after they cross this, they can go those industrial grade 3D printers and all that. But we want to have tinkermind as the barrier breaker to bridge that gap between the industrial side. Yes. So we introduce our 3D printing technology in a very friendly way with simple projects and more easily attainable goals. So that's how we get started and differentiate us from the rest.
And I'm hearing for all three of you as well, right? Nowadays with the use of social media, it has been a starting point or a turning point for a lot of people into deciding that they want to start tinkering around, or start making things, be it from little toys and prototypes to starting to crochet, starting to knit, starting to do a bit of woodwork or whatever we have here. So how crucial do you think social media has been in shaping what you guys do personally and in a very professional and business sense? And how have you guys been making use of that as well to further your tinkermind as well as Craft Atelier?
I think for us, social media, at least for Craft Atelier, was very useful for us to get a lot of inspiration from. That's how we learned a lot of the crafting that we do. Like, we join groups on Facebook, the discussion, the exploration, especially for weaving, especially because there aren't many weavers in Singapore. A lot of the more experienced weavers actually are overseas, so that's a way for us to get new ideas of what to do. So personally, I think that's where the professional development come in. There's also a lot of professional development for us for social media, because we are not social media natives, so we always had to learn how to take the best pictures and everything. It's definitely been very useful to promote our business. I think a lot of the people who come in to Craft Atelier now, previously a lot of it was like people that we knew personally. Now it's more people who just chance upon our work through other, like they were searching for something else and they were, through many connections, got to us and come in. So it's really been quite a game changer, and we're still working very hard on mastering it. For tinkermind, personally, I think I have to add at this point, Jason was being very humble just now. Like, when we first started the workshop, you asked what would be the differentiating.
Yeah.
I think a couple of us who had been in the education industry before we became founders of tinkermind were like, okay, we'll do it this way. And then Jason came in and was like, no, you do this way, it's not interesting, it's not fun. It has to be fun, it has to be creative. The whole user experience, the graphic, the look of it has to already catch people. And I think that's the critical part about social media. Like, whatever you put up there must immediately attract your audience.
It must be very
It must be visually very engaging and very attractive. And Jason was like, whatever they do at the workshop has to be that. Don't deal with the technical part of it first. Deal with bring them through the door, then you can deal with everything, the boring part after that. But at least they've come in, they've converted as a customer. So I think that was very important. That was something I learned from Jason, which he didn't say because he's very, very humble about it.
But maybe it's your experience of being a visual artist,
Yes.
in that sense, coming through as well.
Right.
So, Jason, what would you say are your target audiences for tinkermind right now? Which are the specific? Do you specifically target a specific group of people to bring them in first and convert them, or how do you go about your social media marketing processes?
We are currently focusing more on children and towards teenager side, but we are also open to adults because they are the one who bring in their children. So some of the media, for example, our social media site, we tend to create our graphics to appeal both kids and adults. So, because now it's a very visual age, you have to make your graphics being able to like catch attention in seconds. So it's very important to select like different colors and different graphic styles to match what the target market that we want, which is like more towards children. And we believe that it's a good age for them to start, because the current society, it's more focusing on like studies. So we, especially in Singapore, we are trying to change that mindset and engage them more in like physical, making more physical things rather than just everything remain 2D.
So I'm actually very excited about this or what you guys do, because even though I like to make stuff, I don't have a lot of time in making craft. All these things about talking about weaving and crocheting or even 3D printing are things that I think not only me, I have to say, you see like social media, a lot of people doing it and say, oh, now it's so accessible, right? But I'd like to talk more about the future of where all this is going. As you guys mentioned, right now we are sort of in a transitionary stage here in Singapore, but more and more people are picking it up. And especially Hui Lian and Chen Chen, both of you come from this unique background of coming from a very traditional education system, right? I mean, we all come from traditional education system, I'm sorry. It's just that you guys had your hand in actually influencing it as well. And now you're moving towards like, no, it should be more of, should have a slightly different focus. So how do you see this craft and maker movement going in the future? Do you see it going to actually leaking into our official education system? Or do you think it will, or do you hope it will be, do you think it's good? Or do you think it should remain as something like this, to help bloom the homemaker and businesses like yours as well? All three of you.
I guess making things has always been part of my life, so I see it as a natural extension of what I do. For young kids these days, it may not be the case because some of the school curriculum has already shifted out of doing things like design technology, home economics. They have taken it out in a lot of schools.
Really?
Yeah, so some schools
What?
don't have the technical studio anymore.
That's so sad.
Yeah, so
I'm sorry, I really didn't know
they
this.
don't have workshops anymore. Some schools are taking out basic things like sewing. So they don't go to the home ec room and learn sewing anymore.
Actually, I hated that when I was school.
I love that. I had D&T.
Yeah, so
me to sew a skirt, I remember.
forget it.
I had to come out and learn how to sew my own skirt, It was so difficult.
Yeah, so if you don't have this as part of your formal education, which we used to have, because all of us had to go through it, it then means that you are having a generation with very little contact with certain life skills. Like you don't know how to sew a button on. That's rather sad. Right? So I think if we could get people interested, just to learn something, it may not be the most interesting thing, but you learn to work with your hands, and I think that is something that is a better use of time than something else like staring at a screen. Yeah. So that's something we hope to get people interested. Yeah.
How about Jason?
Okay, in the past, many people study because they need information, they need knowledge to get a job, to get a stable job. But for now, we're talking about future. There's AI coming up, there's machine learning coming up. A lot of people are afraid of them taking over their jobs. So what's important, I believe, is being able to, as us as human, having a certain skill set and using a physical way of learning to differentiate us from machines. Because anything, the information now, you can just go Google it. And you don't need someone to teach you on that information. You can just Google that information. So if we are constantly studying just on the information side, it's easily taken over by a machine. So how are we gonna do is applying those maker education and then teaching it to the kids so that they can use the applied learning to learn from the skill set and then apply the knowledge into actual physical way.
It's actually a very good point because I was listening again to another speech or interview by of Jack Ma, okay, and he was actually saying exactly that, where AI is coming up and computer learning is coming up. Computers are smarter than humans. So if people are focusing too much on teaching themselves or their kids how to compete with the machines, it's never going to work. It's not about how fast you calculate something. It's not about how big a number you can get to, because the computer is always going to be better at you in that, So why compete in that? These computers are there to help you to do those things.
So how about Chen Chen?
Yeah.
For you, because you are coping with both, right? So do you have different outlook for both of them, or do you have different expectations?
I think for me, actually, they aren't that different. I mean, I'm a parent myself, so when I ask myself like how is it that I would pick up craft or like even new technology so easily? I mean, I wouldn't say it's so easily, but I am able to learn. And I realized a lot of it has got to do with the fact that my parents, when we were young, always wanted us to be able to, tinker around with things. My dad used to always say, in Chinese, 东西是死的，不过人脑是活的. So he always tell us like, yeah, this thing can only be, you really think it can only be used one way. Actually, it's up to your mind to find another use for it. And so like with crafting, sometimes we find hacks, because part of Craft Atelier's philosophy is we don't insist that you need to buy certain products and all the accessories that come with it. Because there are ways to work around options. Like, okay, maybe for a loom, you need to buy the loom, but the loom comes with accessories that other everyday object could possibly replace, right? Because you don't have to spend all the money on the accessories. And the same with tinkering, like 3D printing or maker education. It's about looking at the resources that you have and using them differently. I think in schools, maybe we need to move away from a model where we teach like sewing, there's a fixed curriculum, because there are going to be some people who will enjoy it, right? Like yourself, some people who would want to run away from it. So rather than teach a very fixed and standard curriculum and students end up getting a fear for something, we could teach it like maker education. We embrace what each child might want to learn. Like my 3 kids are very different. 2 of them are handicrafters, so they will do weaving with me, they will do rubber stamping. But my second child, the middle child, she doesn't like handicraft, but her way of making things is she likes to draw, she likes to create, she likes to sketch. A lot of it happens in her mind. So something like visualization, 3D modeling works for her because that's how her mind translates making. And I think maybe that's what we need. Because I really do not know what kind of hand skills, like what particular technology or what particular craft I should teach them so that they would be able to have a very successful future. But if I can teach them that actually with anything it's about innovating and creating new things, then I think that's where they will have a one-up over any kind of AI. Because AI they learn through a repetitive. They might not look for new innovations that quickly that a human mind potentially could.
So do you see moving forward, right, in the businesses that you guys run, is it going to be focusing a lot more on the maker education, or is it going to be are you guys looking to expand this in other forms, the businesses?
Mainly focus in maker education.
Yeah, I think we will all probably still remain focused on our like where we sort of specialize in now. But I think it's now looking for opportunities to collaborate, like working with other people in this space or other people outside of this space to come together. Because I think our specialities still help to some extent. I don't think it's possible for us to like do everything by ourselves. So it's about bringing together that network. I guess a bit like how you all would serve as an agency for freelancers, right? Coming together.
So you guys heard it here first. You guys can actually come over to Mox. It's actually a very interesting space over here. So as you walk up the 3 different levels of the building which they occupy, you can see the different studios that are here, and you can actually see, you can see maybe Jason working at the 3D printer, Chen Chen and Hui Lian also working in craft atelier, and a lot of other makers here.
Since it has been a while, you have been working together, right? So, and we have been talking a lot about the business aspect of, of setting up your workshops and things like that. So, but what are some of the practical challenges, that you have actually met, when you all work as a team? What are the challenges, and how do you actually overcome them? Jason, you go first.
So we have different beliefs because we come from different backgrounds. I'm a creative background and she's an education background. But we need both of us to move on to our same goal, which is the maker education. So it's essential for us to work together and understand each other's needs and thinking. Then from there to work towards something that the line where both of us can meet. Yeah.
That's true. How about Hui Lian and Chen Chen? You all know each other for so long, right? You were colleagues, and then after that doing this together, and then for the past 11 years. So, any argument that came up between the both of you all, how do you all try to settle the differences between the two of you?
Yeah, because a lot of people say friends cannot work together, right? What do you guys think?
Well, I don't think we argue, but we do have strong opinions.
Yes.
Yes. So we don't have any full-on fights.
No.
No. But we do speak our mind and said, we need to do this. Fine.
Yeah.
But we are quite fortunate that I think whatever jobs or whatever we are good at, we tend to say, okay, I'm good at this, so I think it would be better if I do this. So that's how we kind of work things out. So like tidying up the place, organizing it, making sure things are running, making sure the electrical bills are paid, making sure the accounting is done. These are not my strong points. I'll just say.
I could see some agreement.
So I think a lot of people think that if you form a team, you need to form up with people who think the same way as you. But that's also a bit dangerous because then you end up in an echo chamber where you only hear the things you want to hear. Nobody challenges your view. And in a business, I think you constantly need to be asking yourself, did the plans that we have or did the perspective I took towards this business, is it truly relevant now? Because you need to be able to pivot your business. So like Hui Lian said, there are times you don't agree, and you can tell because we both have very black faces in the studio, and we're like, oh.
Please do not approach them then.
Yeah. So, but I accept that there are certain crafts where she is stronger. Like certain parts of it, if she says this pattern has to be done this way, and this is the way it should be taught, then I concede because she does know more than me in that area. But I try to support her in other ways because to execute that particular lesson, there needs to be maybe a lot of admin work that comes with it. And I know she doesn't like admin work, but my mind works well. I don't like it, but my mind accepts and generates it very well. So then I would say, okay, so if we're going to do it this way, then this is what I would do. Sometimes she gets very excited with her craft things and she plans all these things in the lesson, and I'm like in the workshop, I'm like, Hui Lian, let's be realistic. You could do it in 3 hours, but maybe the rest of the world would need an entire day to do it. So maybe we want to trim back and not be too ambitious. And she's like, you know what? You're right. Because she's had experience where the class didn't go as she's planned. So I think that's useful. Like Jason say, for tinkermind, when it comes to workshop, yes, he wants it to be very creative. But I also tell him, when we run a workshop in the school has certain expectations. They want the learning objectives to be met. The fun part can be sacrificed. Because in a school, it's we still have outcomes to deliver at the end of the day to our stakeholders. So I always tell Jason, okay, then we need to tone back. Yeah, sometimes he was like, but it'll be a very boring lesson. I'm like, if you want the business, we're just going to have to do it this way. Like it or not, this is the way it has to be done. And I know he goes away going oh, this is so boring. So I think if you want to start a business team, you need to expect that there will be that storming. But I think everybody in the team needs to know that we agree to disagree. We all come in with our own strengths. And when we disagree, it's not personal. It's not a personal attack against you. It's just we all want the best for this business. We all have this common goal. You need to have a very strong goal that the business is working towards, and you come back to it. Like, so we set up this company for this purpose, and we may all disagree on how we get there, but at the end of the day, we would, talk it out if we need to, argue it out. But we know whatever decisions we make it with this goal in mind. Yeah. So I think that's very important for any kind of team actually, but specifically in business, because you really do not want to be an echo chamber where people tell you things are very, very good when it's not very good. Like when your numbers show that it's not very good, you need someone in the team to say, look, we're not earning money, so let's all wake up and pivot our business.
So have you reached a point in time where you really have this conversation and say, look, we are not making money, so how do we make money?
We have been at this point where we would say what we wanted to start out doing is not bringing in the revenue, and something else that we didn't think we wanted to do is bring in the revenue. Just for craft atelier, like baby wrap weaving, initially we wanted a model where a lot of the work is done by the mom who wants to weave the wrap, but we're realizing that there is an obstacle for many moms to get to that level. So we had to go back and ask ourselves, do we want to do some of the work for the mummies? Initially we weren't very keen, but now we're like, okay, maybe if this is going to bring in the money, we'll have to do it this way. Yeah. And even likewise for tinkermind. Yeah.
So for tinkermind, because our Singapore and even many places, the trend is on easily getting things, like buying and all that. But we want to focus on making. But that is a slow process. So not a lot of people are acceptable to that. So it takes some time for sign-ups and also learning interest to grow. And most people will go to the simple method where you can just buy off the shelf or pay us to make for them. Then we have to debate which is our focus and which is the things that make us give us the money. So there are ways and challenges for us to make decision on that.
So right now it seems like both craft are very much targeting just in Singapore. Do you also have overseas clients, or do you also get people who ping you on your social media from overseas that really like what you're doing? Do you have a plan to go out and get
Yeah, do you plan on expanding overseas?
Yeah.
I think tinkermind has that plan to eventually go regional. For craft atelier, we never thought of going regional, but we've had customers approach us from Malaysia and Indonesia.
So we had a customer who came in from Indonesia.
Wow.
She wanted to do spinning, and she wanted to get a spinning wheel. So she approached one company, and the company said, "Oh, we are the local dealer. Come find us. We are in the region." So she actually flew over.
Wow.
Yeah, just after.
Before Chinese New Year.
Yeah, just before Lunar New Year, right?
Yeah.
Just before, and she's like, "Okay, I think this is what I want to do. Can I have a session with you and learn how to do that?" And then she brought home a wheel in parts. She was all packed up, and then in a hand luggage. Yeah. So, and then because she's actually a manufacturer of yarns, so she's like, I'm trying to break into the local market. Is there a way you could collaborate? So that is something that we're thinking of doing.
Oh, wow. So you really never know where it comes from. Huh?
Yeah. We never thought we would go that far in Malaysia and Indonesia, so that was like completely unplanned. Whereas for tinkermind, that's our long-term goal, that we could go into our region. If we see this as being beneficial for the children in Singapore, then it should also likewise be beneficial for children all around the world. Yeah, so that's probably what we want to do, but still a bit far from that.
One step at a time.
Yes.
But thank you so much for all the sharing. It has been great, right? I'm sure our audiences will pick up tips or two from your tips on your business. So it's just one last questions, that we asked the speakers of our previous episode as well, of our previous seasons. So this question is, if you can give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would that be? Right? You can take some time to think about it. Don't have to answer right away. But if you can give yourself one piece of advice to your younger self, right? What would that be?
I think my advice to my younger self would have been keep doing what I was doing. I think some people wonder if I would have told my younger self to take the risk of starting this earlier, but I actually don't think so. I think I came into this at a very good time for myself. I've gotten a lot of skills from the other jobs that I've done in the past, which I now look at what I'm doing and I feel is very relevant. So sometimes don't need to be discouraged. If your current path, like your current trajectory, doesn't feel like you're going where you, like, you know, like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I'd be like, oh gosh, you know, we couldn't get Craft Atelier to go like into a big studio like we thought we wanted to when we first set it up. But I didn't need to worry about it. I feel that there was a time and place for things. We were picking up skills that was useful. We were also bidding our time, because I think if we had gone full time, then it wouldn't have taken off. Yeah, so sometimes it's useful to just know that things happen. Just keep your eyes open for opportunities and always keep learning until the time when it's right for you to do something. See everything else that you do as a learning opportunity. Yeah, I think that is important.
Nice words.
How about Hui Lian?
Well, I guess if I were to have a chance to do it over again, if I could tell my younger self something, I would say stuff that I wanted to learn 20 years ago, don't hesitate, just go for it. There are things that I picked up really late. Like weaving, I only picked it up in recent years, but I was interested in it for a really long time. I just didn't feel that it was accessible because there isn't anyone teaching in Singapore, and the thought of going overseas to learn something wasn't that strong. I was like, how am I supposed to do this? You know, how do I go about doing this? So yeah, that would have been what I told myself.
Right. Jason, how about yourself?
For me is, in the past I tend to think too much in things where, even something that I want to do, I tend to think too much and then end up not doing it. So what I want to tell my younger self is, don't think too much, just do what you like to do, and just something that you enjoy, just go ahead and do it.
Great piece of advice. Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Thank you to our audience as well for tuning in to another episode of our Freelance Creative Exchange. Actually, in fact, it's our first episode of our second season of Freelance Creative Exchange.
So if you have liked this episode and would like to see a lot more of freelancers and makers and tinkerers alike, do go ahead and click the like button. And you know, if you have any questions for us, you have any comments or feedback, feel free to leave it down in the comment section below. Even any questions for our makers and tinkerers that we have with us here today. So